What's up, investors? It's the Russian dude. Let's immediately talk about the most recent CPI inflation report, the response of the Federal Reserve in the form of freezing the rates until further so-called notice, and then the massive pivot we've been talking about for quite some time, which is now finally happening. And to begin with, the most recent CPI reading came at 3.3%, with the previous one being 3.4%, and US Core CPI is at 3.4%, previously 3.6% year over year. So as you can see, the decrease is absolutely non-existent of only 0.1 to 0.2%. This is nothing, to say the least. You can also see the graph right now, which shows how the inflation was changing over time, but you already know that the interest rates which we have right now are relatively high, so this is absolutely not justifying them being so high, while the inflation is barely budging. Speaking about the interest rates, the Federal Reserve decided to keep them at the same level, which is 5.25 to 5.5%. And on this next graph, you can see how these interest rates were changing over time as well. Jerome Powell then had a press conference and was answering questions, and basically what he said is that yes, the inflation is reducing, but it is still relatively high to our liking. It is still way above target. The GDP growth is also expected to slow down. That is why, for some reason, unfortunately, they will have to follow more strict monetary policies and to be more hawkish. At this very moment, Jerome Powell also added they do not have enough data in order to start reducing the interest rates. For this reason, while the economy is going to remain in its current condition, and if there are not going to be any significant changes, the rates will have to stay at the same place, will have to be frozen until further notice, until better future. And then Mr. Powell said that not a single right now Federal Reserve member seeing the increase in interest rates, at least for this year, which is at least one good sign for the stock market. And ultimately he concluded that most likely the interest rates will never be as low as pre-pandemic levels, maybe not even at all in the foreseeable future. And because of this, right now we're also going through a massive pivot, which guys we've been talking about on this channel for quite some time, and now looks like it is finally happening, because Federal Reserve first of all revised its inflation expectations by the end of 2024. They used to think the inflation will be approximately 2.4%, now they think it's going to be 2.6%. So as you can see, inflation in their understanding reaccelerated at least a little bit. Because of this, once again it was reiterated that the interest rates will have to stay where they are right now, and this is the best thing they can offer us. Basically take it or leave it. There is not a single chance we're gonna reduce them, because this will only skyrocket the inflation once again. But increasing the interest rates can unfortunately shut down the economy. The best course of action is to keep everything as it is and keep observing. In the very best case scenario, literally according to the Federal Reserve itself, there might be just one single interest rate cut in the remainder of this year. So remember these talks, some experts, some traders were expecting 3-4 cuts, majority of them were expecting 2 cuts. Well, now the Federal Reserve itself says it's only going to be 1, but in reality they always try to be a little bit more optimistic than the situation really is. Because as soon as the Federal Reserve says that, well guys, the situation is under control, this will mean a huge financial disaster. They have to once again stay optimistic, which basically means that yes, one interest rate cut is maximum what's about to happen, maybe it won't happen at all. And this is the pivot we're talking about, that the inflation is once again reaccelerating and the Federal Reserve is not planning to cut rates potentially at all by the end of this year. And ultimately the Federal Reserve mentioned that maybe, just maybe next year, there will be several more interest rate cuts that anticipated previously. Maybe they're gonna reduce it for the entire 100 basis points, which is like 1%. Which is also not that big of a number if you think about it. But in reality, once again, don't forget, Federal Reserve needs to stay optimistic, they need to make good, dovish promises, while in reality the situation might prove them to be otherwise. So guys, let's keep watching, let's see what's gonna happen. And as always, if you did like this video, please subscribe to my channel if you found this informative or useful or both, and see you tomorrow.